Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is November 3rd. Election day is finally here. It feels so long and so short at the same time. I can remember in 2016 when I was still in high school, I wasn't as much into politics as I am now, but the next day on November 4th, when we went to school and I had conservative friends, I had liberal friends, and it was insane times, and it's really bringing me back to those feelings that we had in 2016 of uncertainty. Well, obviously, we were completely surprised by the Trump win. I didn't know at the time because I wasn't looking at analytics, I wasn't looking at polling, I was just the most casual observer of politics at that time when I was 16 years old. But even to somebody like me, it was very surprising. I was gonna say upsetting, like as in it was an upset. I guess I was also upset in sort of emotional sense, but my conservative friends were definitely rubbing it in my face. I was sort of liberal at the time. I didn't really have that much of an identity, and like I said, I wasn't keeping up with analytics too much. But I mean, any looking back, any reputable pollster actually gave Trump a fairly good chance of winning. 538 gave him around 30%, which is not impossible. You know, people I think bag on 538 too much, being like, oh, though they thought he couldn't win. Nate Silver then later came back and said Nate Silver being the owner of 538. I don't know, a proprietor. I don't know exactly what his relationship is, but uh, saying, oh, he got it wrong, or then he later came back and said, oh, well, 30% is still a good chance, and then people were like, uh, he's just saying that because he got it wrong and he wants to give himself some sort of credibility. Now, 538 gives Trump a 10% chance, and they give Biden an 89% chance of winning with a 1% chance of there being a tie in the electoral vote, which would be interesting. Again, 10% is not nothing. Trump could absolutely still win. If you have not voted, please go out and vote today. I don't even know. Well, by the time this video comes out, I don't know if there'll still be time. There'll probably be like an hour or two left for you to go vote, but go do it anyway. I mean, and if you stand in line before the poll closes, you have to vote. You must vote. You must be allowed to vote. Okay. And if you see if you decide to vote today, if you voted in the past and you see any sort of shenanigans going on at the poll, whether it's with pollsters or with people who are there voting, please let me know. Leave it in a comment, email me, and I will be talking about it. Okay, but today we're going to be talking about our first story. We're going to be talking about the Trump uh, Biden bus incident that happened here in Texas. There was a Biden bus that did not have Joe Biden on it, but it was a bunch of surrogates for the Joe Biden team and several other people from the Joe Biden team and representatives from Texas. And this took place here in Texas where the bus was traveling. I believe it was between San Antonio and Austin. And they got surrounded by trucks. The bus did got surrounded by trucks that were flying Trump flags. They reportedly got very close to the bus. People on the bus, inside the bus, reported that they tried to drive them off the road and that they tried to slow the bus down. 911 calls were made. I'm not sure if it was from inside the bus, but 911 calls were made to the police. Police did show up and intervene, according to Biden officials. And the Biden team actually had to cancel their plan, an event they had planned in Pflugerville, Texas, with the Austin Young Democrats, which this is how they win. I mean, that's going to be sort of the theme for the two stories we have today. This is how they win. It's intimidation, it's suppression. It's, if it were an honest race, if it were, we want both sides want the most amount of people to vote as possible, and the winner is, will ultimately be the one who wins is accepted by the other party, then it would be a clear gimme to Joe Biden. But the supporters of Republicans and Republicans and Trump themselves know that the only way that they can truly win is by suppressing the vote, by intimidating people. We've heard in Pennsylvania people are planning on going to polling stations armed, which is apparently a thing that's allowed in Pennsylvania, which is insane, but that's a thing that's happening. Trump later tweeted that they did nothing wrong, which is a tweet I'll put up on the screen right now. And then he also retweeted a video that I'll put up right now of the incident with the trucks and the bus. And he said, "I love Texas." So not only if you were expecting Trump to come out and condemn this behavior, I mean, I wouldn't have held your breath for that. Of course, Trump wants to embolden these people to do more of these things. Like I said, they know that this is the way to get people to not vote. Especially in a state like Texas, where a large amount of people are voting Republican, especially in those areas in between cities, which is where this bus was traveling at the time, much more rural areas. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people who might want to vocally show their support for Biden, and in this case, it's dangerous. And now that the president is not only not condemning this behavior, he's endorsing this behavior by saying they did nothing wrong. And in that first tweet, I'll show you, which I'll pull up again, he said that the FBI, who started an investigation on this incident, should instead be investigating Antifa, which, like again, they even in the face of clear intimidation, clear attempts at voter suppression, even in like reality doesn't matter to these people. They can see that, they can see my side is clearly doing something wrong, and then they say, well, in reality, the other side is much worse, when in your face is their side doing something just demonstrably wrong and demonstrably anti-democratic. And this is completely uncalled for. It's these are the same law and order people, right? It spits in the face of our democratic institutions, and you cannot allow yourself to be intimidated by this. Okay, you must go out and vote. You must go out and voice your opinion. Okay, so that's today's first story. Next, in Texas as well, a federal judge appointed by George W. Bush uh, ruled that over 100,000 votes that were cast through drive-through voting locations in Harris County, of which there are 10, can be counted. So Steve Hotz is last name Hotze, and other Republican candidates sued the state of Texas to not allow these votes from drive-through voting locations to be counted. And one of their arguments was it's not clear that the Texas Constitution protects people's right to vote through drive-through voting in this manner. This was only available in Harris County. There were 10 locations, and this was on Monday. This was yesterday on Monday that it was decided that the court, or the judge, the federal judge, decided that it would be legal to count these votes. And literally early Tuesday morning, and when I mean early, I mean around 12 to 1 a.m., they filed a motion. They being the plaintiff filed a motion, Steve Hodson, Republican candidates, to appeal this to a higher court, and the higher court denied it, which is a good thing. Although I'm not a lawyer, I don't know exactly how these things work. Maybe they could appeal it again or appeal it to a different court. I'm not exactly sure, but the fight for this, I'm afraid, my feeling is far from over in this instance. The conservatives challenged drive-through voting, in which people could vote through a machine through their cars. So people would sit in their cars and they would be handed the machine and they could vote in there. This was obviously due to fears of spread of coronavirus. Harris County and Texas currently, I mean, we're going through a massive second wave. We have more cases per day right now than we've ever had throughout the entire length of this pandemic. And Harris County and Texas has uncontrolled spread, and Harris County is one of the epicenters for this as well. And so people would rightfully be fearful of getting the virus. And so I think it was a good thing that Harris County, who are the elections board, the election commission, provided something like this for people who were afraid. And so another argument from okay, well, before I get into this, this is clearly just like the last story. This is clear attempts at voter suppression by Republicans, and this is clear attempts at voter intimidation by Republicans, saying, there are some people who might have only wanted to vote through a drive-through if they decided that they were going to vote at all because they were fearful of coronavirus. And so now, with this lawsuit being so public, the effect is that somebody might think, well, if I vote through the drive-through, my vote might not even count at all, and I'm only going to vote through the drive-through, so I'm just not going to go out and vote at all. That is a way in which it is voter intimidation, voter suppression, being that obviously they just don't want to count the votes at all. And this is obviously supposed to disenfranchise Democrats. Democrats are much more likely to take the virus seriously. Democrats are much more likely to wear masks. Democrats are much more likely to vote in Harris County because Harris County, I think, for at least the past, for at least, okay, I won't, because I don't have the exact numbers, but I know this year they will 100% vote Democrat Harris County, and in 2016 they 100% voted, not 100%, meaning 100% of the population, but their vote, the majority of their votes went to Democrats. Harris County is a largely Democratic district. The fact that they want to disenfranchise these people is a clear attempt to disenfranchise, to explicitly disenfranchise Democratic voters. But don't take my word for it. Take the plaintiff's word for it, in which Steve Hotz literally said that these locations were placed in disproportionately Democratic areas, and so therefore he didn't want anybody stealing any votes. That, I mean, those were his words, that he didn't want people stealing votes by placing these in disproportionately Democratic areas. In which, I mean, Harris County itself is a Democratic county. I don't know exactly what that means to say Democratic area. I mean, he might be right. Okay, but it seems, but Harris County is largely a Democratic district. So, but this is them saying the quiet part out loud. The quiet part was supposed to be, we are wanting to disenfranchise Democratic voters, but he's not even trying to hide it. He's saying, yeah, of course this is in disproportionately Democratic areas, and that's why I want to stop it. Because he doesn't want people stealing votes, whatever stealing votes means. Apparently, creating safe opportunities for people to vote during a global pandemic that's having the highest rise of cases throughout the entirety of that pandemic is apparently wanting to steal votes. I mean, they're not even trying to hide it at this point. The judge who ruled on this case also urged people not to vote at these drive-through locations today. So I would also urge the same thing, just because of the uncertainty of this. Um, don't do it. If you want your vote absolutely to count, if you feel like that's the only safe way in which you can vote, go ahead. But keep in mind that, so we had originally 10 of these drive-through locations here in Harris County, and that has been reduced to one by the election committee, election board. I'm not exactly sure. Sorry, who runs this, but the election board, I guess, here in Harris County has decided to reduce that number from 10 to 1, just in case these votes are not counted, which is very sad. Like, this is the reality we have to deal with. It's not a matter of, you know, do we want the most amount of people to vote? Do we want people to vote safely? It's a matter of how can we or yeah, for Republicans, it's a matter of how can we stop people from voting to essentially hand Trump a victory. And so that's all the information for that story as well. And I want you to keep in mind that all these projections about who can win, what the polling looks like, what the likelihood of any one candidate winning, it does not account for voter suppression. It does not account for voter intimidation. Because you can ask people over the phone, you can ask people in an online survey, and this whole myth that Trump supporters have just been lying this whole time about who they want, who they actually want. It's just that, it's a myth. And then that all of a sudden today there's going to be a huge red wave of Trump supporters who had been lying in polls past. That is a myth that does not exist. Just don't even worry about that. But the things we do need to worry about, and the things that polls cannot account for and projections cannot account for, is voter suppression, is voter intimidation, is votes being tossed out in this way, is votes not being fairly counted. And we cannot account either for Donald Trump declaring an early victory, which, according to three sources, according to Axios, according to three sources close to the president, he has said that if at any point tonight, the results will be slowly coming out to news outlets. If at any point tonight he appears to be ahead, he will declare victory, and he will say that any votes counted after that make him look worse he will call them fraudulent. So be ready for that. I'm telling you that. So be ready for, if Trump appears to be ahead at any point tonight, he will declare victory. It will declare premature victory. Do not be tricked. That obviously that doesn't mean that he can just, that the victory will be legitimate, or that will actually mean anything. But it will be, hopefully, it will be the final act of, well, it won't be the final because he still has, 2 more months of being president. It will be one of his final acts of just desperation to try to win this. not to win this, to appear that he has won this, and it will be one of the final scandals as well. And so just don't be fooled by it. Again, it really has no effect whether he declares himself victor or not. That doesn't, I mean, he could declare himself victor and lose in a landslide. It makes no difference, um, because he will ultimately not be the victor. But anyway, in that situation, which he absolutely could win tonight, do not think that I am telling you that it's a shoe-in for Joe Biden. Okay, he can absolutely win tonight, him being Trump. Uh, Things have happened in the past that are much less likely. He would have to overcome his numbers by way more than he did in 2016. So it's very unlikely, but you know, we can all hope. And our country would be way better off, and it would start the path to recovery, and it would start the path to this show being a more serious show. I guess, I'm kind of ranting. I'm going off script at this point, but reflecting on the last 4 years, and I guess on the last few weeks that I've done this show, it's kind of pretty easy to pick a few stories and pick a few scandals that I want to talk about every week, because the Trump administration is so scandalous. They do so many things that are out of the norm. They are so clearly don't keep their promises, and so clearly do things that are often illegal, that it's so easy for me to just come here to my computer and record an episode about all the ridiculous and unprecedented things that the Trump administration has done, authoritarian, fascistic things. If Joe Biden is elected, this will hopefully turn into a more serious show. We will hopefully turn into a more serious country as well. We will be taken more seriously, but it will be a lot, keep this in mind, it will be a lot harder and a lot more boring to keep Joe Biden accountable for the things he has promised and for the things he said he's done. And not even that, even if he does all the things he's done, I don't think many of his plans go far enough, and we're certainly going to hold him accountable in that regard as well. When I feel he needs to go farther in a certain aspect, we will be reporting on it here, and we will be talking about it. But it's going to be a lot less scandalous. It's going to be a lot more respectable. It's going to be a lot uh, less clear and obvious whenever something is done that is wrong or that doesn't do everything that we would like it to do as progressives. Um, but be ready for that. And I hope you stick with me once this man is gone, whether it's, I mean, to be completely honest, another 4 years of Trump might be really good for this show, because there will be more scandals and more insane things to report on a weekly basis. But it would be so terrible for our country. And I obviously voted for Joe Biden. We need to get Trump out. I mean, I don't know how many times I've said it, and we need to get every other Republican in Texas out. John Cornyn, Dan Crenshaw. Be sure to vote against them. Vote for MJ Hagar. Vote for Seema Lajavardian, I believe is how it's pronounced. I actually met her, and I posted a picture on my personal Twitter account. Be sure to check that out. I went to go volunteer for her just for an afternoon. But anyway, guys, I will also be streaming on Twitch tonight at around 9 or 10 p.m. Just look out for it. I'll be tweeting, or I will be I will be tweeting out the link, so be sure to follow me on Twitter. If you have my personal Facebook account, I'll be definitely posting it on there, and on my personal Twitter account, most likely. Twitch.tv/ Texas Progressive. We will probably be playing some party games on GTA or Valorant, either or, and we will be checking the results as they come out. Do not expect there to be full results tonight. Okay, there will probably, I would say, by tomorrow at midnight, we will 100% know who the next president will be. And that's tomorrow by midnight. Okay, so that means it could be tonight that we know. It could be tomorrow afternoon that we know. It could be tomorrow morning. It could be, I mean, I hope it's tonight. But there are a large amount of mail-in votes, and many states don't actually start counting their mail-in votes until the polls close today. So, and we know that there are large amounts of mail-in votes, more than any other time in our history, more than largest amounts of early votes. So it might be a while before we know who has won. And again, the actual declared winner, like as in like the official declared winner, doesn't actually come for I think 2 weeks or something, until the states have officially tallied all of their results, and then they send them to the federal government, and then the federal government. But usually how it works out, and on November 3rd, on the night of November 3rd, the news outlets have enough numbers and they can do enough math to say, okay, you know, we can give it to this candidate pretty certainly, and they've never been wrong when it's on election day, because there's certain math that they do, I guess, and not that I know too much about this, and there's certain barriers that a uh, candidate would have to break to be able to overcome certain leads that have already come out. That would be very unlikely. So they could like 100% say this guy, or not with almost complete certainty, say this candidate is the one who got it. And hopefully we will be getting that tonight. But like I said, do not expect that, and I certainly won't be expecting it, but I will hope for it. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. Be sure again to follow my Twitter, follow my personal Twitter account, follow my Texas Progressive, subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video, and be sure to follow me on Twitch where I will be streaming. And thank you so much for watching.